Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Literacy Week. My name's Gladys Blackmore, and today I'm going to read you a story called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. If you really like reading, like I do, this is a great book because although I'm reading you a picture book today, it actually is a series of novels. And if you're in grade 6 or 7, you will really enjoy the novels. I'm going to start now with this, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So this is beautifully illustrated. So, once upon a time, there was, and probably still is, a magic wardrobe. It was made from the wood of a magic apple tree, and you could, if you would, climb through the back into another world, the magical land called Narnia. But now that world was ruled by an icy witch, whose wand could turn you to stone and whose power could be broken only with the help of 4 children. And of course, right here on this side of the wardrobe, there were 4 children, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, all of whom were longing for adventure. Lucy, the youngest and the most longing, was the first to push through the firs and find herself in a snowy wood under a street lamp where the witch's wickedness had made it always winter. Always winter, and never Christmas. Imagine that, came a voice. It was Mr. Toomis, a fawn. He was working for the witch, even though he knew it was wrong. Good evening, he said, staring hard at Lucy. You are a human child, are you not? Come through the Wild West woods? No, said Lucy, through the wardrobe in the spare room. Wardrobe? Spare room? Never heard of them, said Mr. Toomis, but someone like you is expected, and a toasty tea awaits you. After tea, to Lucy's surprise, Mr. Toomis began to weep so hard that there was puddles all over the floor. Lucy had often wanted to cry like that herself and was most sympathetic, which made Mr. Toomis blurt out the truth. I'm supposed to hand you to the wicked witch, Majesty, but now that I've met you, I can't. I won't, even though I'll be turned to stone if I don't. Lucy promised that she wouldn't let that happen. After all, she said, a witch is only a witch until someone stands up to her in the right way. So I'll get my brothers and sister, and that's what we will do. But before Lucy could persuade Peter and Susan that there was a wicked white witch through the wardrobe, Edmund secretly slipped through to see for himself and bumped straight into her. Once the witch saw that he was just the kind of boy she could win over with a box of her enchanted Turkish delight. And there will be lots more, rooms full of it, she tempted him, if you'll only bring your brother and sisters to my house. I will, said Edmund, stuffing and gobbling without stopping to think what might happen to them all if he did. Then I'll make you a queen, then I'll make you a king, that beautiful, wickeder than wicked witch said. So when, a few days later, all 4 children did go through the wardrobe together, Edmund was quite ready to deliver the others to the witch, just to get his mouth around more of that magic must-have Turkish delight. Of course, he said nothing as they trudged through the snow in coats borrowed from the wardrobe. He said nothing when they found Mr. Toomis's cave ransacked. He said not a word when a talking beaver told them Mr. Toomis had been dragged away by the witch's secret wolf police. Lucy, on the other hand, was furious. Well, that does it, she cried. I'm not leaving until that witch has had her wand smashed and her wickedness stomped on. Mr. Beaver was thrilled to hear Lucy talk like this and hurried them back to his house for what was about to be a witch meeting. And there they are in Mr. Toomis's house, a beer house. You've come exactly at the right time, said Mrs. Beaver. You have indeed, said Mr. Beaver, for it is well known that to get rid of the witch, Aslan needs 4 brave and adventuresome children. Aslan, cried Lucy with a shrill of excitement. Who is Aslan? Aslan the Great, of course, said Mr. Beaver, who created this world and all of us in it, the only one more powerful than the witch. And Mrs. Beaver gathered them closer. They say he will be at the stone table by tomorrow, but shh, the witch mustn't hear of it, and she has spies everywhere. They were soon so busy whispering about meeting Aslan, they did not notice Edmund sneaking out the back door. He was making his way to the witch's house and more Turkish delight, but nothing could have prepared him for what he found when he got there. Every kind of creature turned to stone, air so cold it frosted white. The witch's wolf captain stretched, smirking, and the witch in the foulest mood, hating him on sight. Where are your sisters and your brothers? She snapped, her breath forming icicles. I'll get them to you, Edmund managed to say through chattering teeth. Right now. They're going to the stone to meet someone called Aslan. Aslan? I knew it. No wonder the temperature's rising in here. Longbeard, my sleigh, Aslan and those children must not reach each other. But keeping to hidden paths and deep forest, the beaver was already leading Lucy, Peter, and Susan to meet Aslan's. Sleigh bells, cried Lucy suddenly. Quick, hide, it might be her. No, look, said Mr. Beaver. It must be a sign from Aslan. Lucy looked and her heart leaped. Father Christmas was here. He was not like any Father Christmas she'd ever heard of or seen, and nor were his gifts. I bring what your adventures call for, he said mysteriously. Lucy held hers carefully. It was a small diamond bottle of cordial made from fire flowers, so magical that only a few drops would heal the wounded. And at the thought of the wounded, Lucy remembered Edmund. She had been feeling terrible. Something bad was going to happen to Edmund. And it was. The witch had him tied like a prisoner and was raging at him as if it was his fault her winter was wearing out. But the sleigh wasn't working, and everywhere there was signs of spring. But deep down she knew it was Aslan's doing, and she knew the prophecy. The day Aslan crowns 4 children, kings and queens of Narnia, my rule will end, except it won't, she snarled at her lurking wolf captain. I'll defeat him yet. Go get the other 3 while I decide how best to use this fool of a boy. But defeating Aslan would never be that simple, even for the wicked witch. As Lucy and Peter and Susan were discovering at the table, Aslan was nobler than any creature imaginable. He was a lion, greater than all lions, and wonderful and terrible at the same time. For Lucy, looking at him felt like looking at the sun, only safer. When Aslan spoke, his deep, rich voice seemed to shake the very ground that Lucy stood on. Welcome, children. Long have we waited for you. He turned to the horizon. There in that castle are 4 thrones. Only when 4 human children occupy them will Narnia be free again. But crowns must be earned, and that time is upon you. At this there was a great consternation among the smaller Narnians. Peter and the beavers ran to see what it was all about. But Lucy felt she had to tell Aslan about Edmund. He's lost, Aslan, she began, and then the words tumbled out. Or with the witch, taken by the witch, or something, but please, he is our brother, and he's the 4th. He must be saved. All shall be done that must be, said Aslan, all dealt with in turn. And first, he was interrupted by the sound of the horn Father Christmas had given Susan. She was warning that the witch's wolf captain was slinking among them. Lucy was up a tree in a flash, but Susan didn't have time to climb out of reach. "Help her!" Lucy screamed, and drawing his sword, Peter did, fighting that lurking, smirking, cruel captain single-handedly to his end. "You find your strengths, I see," Aslan glowed, "and now I must send my people for your brother." True to Aslan's promise, in the morning, Edmund had been found. He was there, walking in the dewy grass and talking with the lion. Lucy thought her brother looked quite different, as if he was beginning to trust himself again. She was relieved and wanted to run over and throw her arms around him, but before she could, the dwarf, Longbeard, announced the arrival of the White Witch. "Hear me!" the witch screamed at Aslan. "That child was ready to hand over his brother and sisters in exchange for a few boxes of Turkish delight. He is a traitor and cannot be rescued, for the law says all traitors are mine. Give him back to me now." And when she'd finished, Aslan sent Peter to prepare an army of good Narnians, and then he quietly offered his own life to save Edmund's. The witch couldn't believe her luck. "Forget Edmund," she whispered to her dwarf and her bags. "Forget the children. Now I'll kill the great Aslan, power of all good, without breath or roar, and rule forever. Tie him to the table with 1,000 ropes." But as soon as Aslan was dead and the witch left, an army of mice arrived and began to nibble through the ropes. Lucy and Susan, who'd been hidden, were heartbroken. They wanted to run and tell Peter, but before they could, there came a thunderous crack. The stone table had split in two, and Aslan was free. "Aslan, you're alive!" cried Lucy, flinging herself onto him. "How did you do that?" "Through magic deeper than the witch will ever know," said Aslan. "And now, children, there is much to do. But first we shall enjoy a romp through spring, as no one ever has, except in Narnia." And that is what they did, the girls riding on the great lion's back through avenues and sunny glades, roaring past waterfalls and echoing caverns, across mountains, valleys filled with blue flowers. And on, until they arrived at the witch's house. She was away, of course, but high walls and locked gates did not bother Aslan. "Hold on," he roared, and leaped and landed in the courtyard amongst statues of all of the creatures the witch had turned to stone. "Mr. Toomis," cried Lucy. "Oh, Aslan, I promised him I wouldn't let this happen." "Then keep your promise through me," said Aslan, as he began to breathe warm life into each of the cold statues. And once back in the land of living, all of them were only too eager to join in the battle against the witch and her horrible army of orcs and giants, boggles and hags, ghouls and ghastlies of every sort. But as they came bounding up, they saw stone statues of their side all over the battlefield. The witch and her wand were winning. And then suddenly Edmund stepped out to save the day. Instead of going for the witch directly, he brought his sword down on her wand, smashing it to pieces. "Fools, all of you!" the witch screeched, turning to Peter. "I'll still find a way." Peter staggered back, and Aslan made his greatest leap straight at the witch. And that was that. The White Witch is dead. Narnia is free. Long live Narnia! The cries went up, sending the last of the witch's army running for the faraway hills. As Edmund lay still on the ground, Lucy remembered her fireflower cordial and rushed to his side. "He's badly wounded," said Peter, "but without what he did, the witch would have won." "True," said Aslan. "Even I might have been a statue. He has earned his place back among you. But Lucy, be quick. There are many wounded. Susan, help her while I get busy with all these statues. When every hurt Narnian was healed and every stone statue was breathing again, Aslan solemnly crowned the children up at the castle. King Peter, Queen Susan, King Edmund, and Queen Lucy. Afterwards there was music, feasting, and dancing. Aslan, glowing more golden than ever, was about to slip away, but before he did, Lucy found him. We've never ruled anywhere before, she said, and I'm a bit afraid. Don't be, said Aslan, for I will be with you, even when you do not see me. Besides, you're all brave and adventurous, and I've seen the love in your heart, Lucy, and it overflows. You will be as good a queen as Narnia could hope for. And always Aslan was right. Soon all four of them were loved and respected up and down the land. Together they finished off the witches' ghastlies. They restored peace, good loving, and laughter, and where once it was endless winter, it now seemed always sunshine. The prophecy is fulfilled, said Mr. Toomis as they walked into the wild woods. Narnia is Narnia again. But what is this? An iron tree, lit like a lamp. Of course, it wasn't an iron tree at all. It was the street lamp at the end of the wardrobe. Suddenly, Peter and Susan, Edmund and Lucy felt the pull of their lives on the other side, and the next thing, there they were, not pushing through trees, but pushing through rows of fur coats. They were back. They were home. And to their amazement, not a moment had passed since they left. But then, as they were to find out in many other adventures, that was all part of the marvel and mystery of that evermore magic land, Narnia. And that concludes the story. If you want to learn more about the adventures of Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, you can find more books after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I hope you do, because enjoying reading has brought me hours and hours of pleasure, and it will do the same for you. Enjoy your literacy week.